The incarceration of peoples for breaking certain laws and codes of ethics is a phenomenon used throughout the world, but is most prevalent in the United States. Connected to this mass incarceration are two systems, the U.S. foster care system and the U.S. carceral system. In this film, we argue that the foster care system and the prison system set already disenfranchised people up for failure in terms of the conditions of both systems and the lack of opportunities within them. In the United States, 428,000 children out of 323.1 million people are in foster care. Although designed to help the people of our nation by caring for our children when no one else wants to or can, the foster care system is not exactly what it seems. Children in the foster care system are at greater risk for involvement in the justice system due to abuse, neglect, and home removal that stems from conditions of poverty, community instability, and parental incarceration, substance abuse, and mental health issues. In a particular log we had from our Adopt an Inmate project, one inmate references an occurrence they dealt with. When I went to my foster homes, my foster parents would kick me and treat me like a dog to wake me up, picking me up by the neck and choking me and tossing me to the side when they would get mad. Many foster children also experience more disadvantages than those who are not in the system, such as instability from being moved from home to home, neglect, abuse, and malnutrition. Foster youth who experience more placements are nearly 15% less likely to complete high school when compared to their peers. Only 71% will receive a high school diploma by age 19, and only 10% of former foster youth will attend college. Only 3% will graduate. A quarter of these youths will also suffer from severe mental health problems and learning disabilities. This creates instances of aging out of the foster care system. Many times when children age out, 1 in 3 become homeless within their first 2 years. 47% of these aged out youth are unemployed. 60% of aged out girls become pregnant by age 19, and 40% become pregnant by age 21. This system's weaknesses become even more noteworthy when drawing connections to the weaknesses of the U.S. carceral system, which is supposedly designed to help the nation by cleaning our streets. 25% of all inmates have previously been part of the foster care system, showing that one failed system of their childhood is leading to yet another failed system into adulthood. Many who enter prison, especially those who went through the foster care system, carry the scars of their past with them. The foster care to prison pipeline exists as a reflection of these scars, and the prison system itself perpetuates practices of degradation, hypermasculinity, and lack of environmental stability, all which were present in the foster care system. Upon entering the prison system, many men are expected to carry a certain persona. There is a notion that men are not supposed to display many soft emotions, but only those of a real man. Within society, there is an exaggeration of male stereotypical behavior, in which there is an emphasis on physical strength, aggression, and sexuality. Often in prison, as well as outside of prisons, hypermasculinity is a construct that is used for survival within one's own environments and societies. Many times in prison, hypermasculinity is used as a defense mechanism to prevent physical harm and possibly dangerous situations, such as rape and abuse from other inmates. This same survival skill of hypermasculinity used out of fear and abuse was, for many, learned from their prior foster care experiences. The modern-day prison system also perpetuates a lack of stability that many adults from foster care experienced. Lack of stability in the foster care system derives from an inability to find stable living conditions and from being moved from home to home. In prisons, many who are incarcerated continue to bear witness to this instability, as they are often transferred from facility to facility and torn from the general population to be put in solitary confinement. The main excuse provided for prison transfers and solitary confinement is the claim that these measures are used to discipline inmates. However, placing incarcerated people in intensive management units does not positively change inmate misconduct, as these units do not promote education or rehabilitation and only serve to confine individuals. Prison transfers do not aid in the rehabilitation process for these humans, but rather further their trauma. Instead of receiving proper rehabilitation and time to adapt and grow as individuals, some inmates are forced to endure the same struggles they faced during their time in foster care. These struggles call for a reformation of the programs and the basic framework of the prison system, so that individuals can be offered an equal chance at recovery. Due to the devastating effects of both the foster care and carceral systems, it is evident that inmates with foster care backgrounds may need programs tailored to their particular experiences and needs. However, since the U.S. prison system entered the punitive era in the 1970s, there has been a shift from rehabilitation to punishment of inmates. Today, not only are inmates with foster care backgrounds being neglected, but all inmates are being blocked from opportunities to upgrade their skills and education while incarcerated, in the same way that many foster care youths do not receive the resources they require. In 2005, more than 25% of all state prisons were not providing inmates with alcohol and drug rehabilitation programs, even though majority of inmates incarcerated since the 1980s have been charged with drug possession, and approximately half of prison and jail inmates meet DSM-IV criteria for substance abuse or dependence. By 2009, California had approved budget cuts that would remove $250 million a year from rehabilitation services, essentially cutting more than 40% of what the state then devoted to their rehabilitation programs. Lack of funding is not the sole reason for prisons not providing quality rehabilitation to inmates, since Massachusetts saw a prison population decline of 12% over the last 5 years, but an increase in correction spending by 18%, the spending used for guards and other security personnel, and not on education, reentry programs, or other rehabilitation efforts. Statistically, inmates raised without two parents, those with prior foster care experience falling into this group, are less likely to obtain their high school diploma or GED. All inmates, but especially those with foster care backgrounds, would therefore benefit from greater investment in education-related programs. Though educational programs would set inmates up for higher education and successful reentry into society with usable skills, participation in academic programs actually fell from 43% to 27% from 1991 to 2004, most likely due to Pell Grants no longer funding the higher education of inmates. By continuing to collect and analyze data that quantifies the number of prison inmates who have spent part of their childhood in foster care, policymakers may gain a better understanding of these incarcerated people. This knowledge will distinguish those with foster care backgrounds as a group that requires more direct assistance, and ultimately encourage both policymakers and researchers to create new rehabilitation and educational programs, or enhance existing new ones, that address the social, mental, educational, and work-related needs of each individual inmate. More data on foster care children in general would also allow policymakers to improve and develop new services for foster care teens who are trying to navigate their paths to independence. These services would be extremely beneficial, provided they effectively help foster care youth avoid the criminal justice system, and thus successfully sever the ties between the foster care and prison systems.